Welcome into the Flight Plan Podcast, where we hope you get a call today. The Jets are 0-4, and they welcome the Cowboys to town on Sunday. Dallas completely one-sided. Elite offense so far, terrible defense. We'll see how that goes. We'll preview the game, look back on Sunday a little bit. Plus, we'll talk about the penalty situation that I referenced, and we'll have some picks. Lots to get to. I'm Tim McMaster, along with Zach Rosenblatt. Give us a 5-star review. Give us a thumbs up, all that stuff. Leave some comments as well on YouTube. Loved interacting with you guys when you get in there with the comments. Yeah, how you feeling, Zach?
Good. There was two things I wanted to just talk about off the top real quick. Number one, I think, is the biggest news of the day, which is it is Taylor Swift Day to those who celebrate. New album just dropped.
Right, October 3rd.
At midnight last night.
Also my mother's birthday.
There you go. So her and Taylor Swift share October 3rd as an important day in their lives, I would say. But yeah, I listened to the album the first way through. It's pretty good. Not as many bangers as I was anticipating, but still some high quality music. I'll listen to it a bunch, I'm sure, as my wife will play it all over the apartment. And I'm not going to complain about it because I'm a Swiftie at heart at the end of the day. Let's be honest. And then the other thing I just wanted to shout out was that 49ers game last night. I'm going to be honest, I didn't stay up till the end of it. I did go back and see some of the stuff, but Robert Saleh, celebrating like he used to. It was interesting seeing him happy Saleh is back. I mean, that was as gutty.
He got in a fight last week, so it's good.
Yeah, I know. That's true. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but I mean, it's funny. I mean, everybody says some people are more meant to be defensive coordinators and head coaches, and maybe he'll get another head coaching chance again. But I mean, you look at the 49ers won this game without their quarterback, without any of their wide receivers. I think they had some offensive line missing. They had Nick Bosa out, and they still beat the Rams in overtime. And the Rams are the favorite in that division. So high quality win. And it's just funny because the Jets were never able to do that when Saleh was here. When they would, as we talked about on here so many times, they would lose a quarterback or somebody important and they would just crumble. Other than that one Eagles game where they won without their corners. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting seeing him, and Bryce Huff got a sack. A lot of former Jets around the league doing well right now as it goes.
The amazing thing about Taylor, by the way, is that she went on that ridiculous tour, right? The Eras tour, all that dating someone who lives in a different city. So there's probably all that travel. She has time to write an album, and record an album.
Not only an album, this is her second album that's come out in a she released one last year too. I mean, all while dating him and going on tour and all that stuff. But it's a Taylor day, so enjoy it if you're a Taylor.
I didn't even have time to get my hair cut this week.
Yeah, I know. I know that was your struggle this morning. Yeah.
All right. On to the Jets. First thing we do on the second episode is put a bow on the game, something we didn't get to in our recap episode. And one thing I wanted to bring up, Zach, was that Brandon Stevens was good. This defense was not good, but Stevens, 79.9 PFF grade. That was the second best on the Jets Monday. 84.3 coverage grade, the highest of his career. So in all this darkness right now, obviously with an 0-4 football team, maybe, the idea that, hey, this team can take Brandon Stevens and make him better over time. Maybe he is getting better. It's my silver lining.
Yeah. I mean, he had a couple good tackles. He had a pass breakup on a day where the defense was pretty terrible overall. If he can at least become not such a minus in that lineup, that's obviously a huge bonus. And, that just kind of speaks to if the Jets can just get all of these guys to play well at the same time, maybe they'll win some games, but we need to see it first. You can say, and people have either in this fan base or this building or whatever it is, they're a couple plays away from being 3-1 or whatever you want to say, but you barely lost to a bad Dolphins team. So I don't think you can claim that we're a good team if a few things go our way. You lost to a bad team, so you are a bad team until you prove otherwise. So this is a big week. We're going to get into that. Obviously, it's not an easy game. They do match up not terribly bad with I don't know if that was the right phrasing. I'm tired, but with the Cowboys, we'll get into that. But yeah, Stevens improvement was good. And I mean, Michael Clemens too, he had a good grade and he did not make any glaring errors. I mean, he's still a liability in some ways, but he played the most snaps and didn't have any terrible penalties. So you take that as a win.
You're just kind of waiting for the shoe to drop with Clemens
Yeah.
and the penalties. All right. Most of the news this week in some way ties to injuries. So we'll kind of take it that way. We'll go one injury at a time. The big one, obviously, from Sunday was well, there was two of them. There was Michael
Yeah.
Carter, you mentioned, but Braylon Allen, MCL sprain on IR. You predicted for the second straight year that Braylon Allen was going to have a big season, Zach.
I'm sorry, Braylon.
I'm
sorry, Braylon. Yeah.
Obviously, running back is a position where there is some depth. I mean, he was your number 2, right? You have Breece Hall, you have Isaiah Davis, but they have backfilled as well. They've signed Khalil Herbert, who has success in the NFL, although not really recently. Back when he was with the Bears a couple of years ago.
I mean, with the Bears with Justin Fields, by the way. So there's something to be said there. But yeah, I mean, that was an interesting signing. I think he was on the Seahawks practice squad. I can't remember. It was kind of confusing about whether they signed him off the practice squad or if he was released by the Seahawks and then signed by the Jets. But either way, like, he's an experienced running back. They needed somebody. He's kind of a tough runner. I pulled out some stats from when he was at his best, which was in 22 and 23 with Fields as his quarterback. And he averaged 5.1 yards per carry those 2 years, over 1,300 rushing yards, 8 total touchdowns. In 23, he forced 32 missed tackles, which was in the top 25 among running backs, even though he only played in 12 games. 29 the year before. In 2022, he had the third best yards per carry after contact per attempt out of all running backs with at least 100 carries, and he was 18th and 23. So they're pretty much replacing the strong running style of Braylon Allen with Khalil Herbert. And I mean, obviously, there's a reason why he was on a practice squad and why, he kind of bounced around a little last year. It didn't really work with the Colts, but he's shown some signs in the NFL of being a usable running back. He's better than the other guys they had in the room. It's this running back room, which was viewed as a strength beforehand, that doesn't really feel like it as much because we haven't seen enough from Isaiah Davis. He's shown like some flashes. He's been their third down back. But now you have Breece as one. Isaiah Davis will get his share of touches. Khalil Herbert's on the active roster, so I'm curious to see what level of role he has, if any. They still have Kene Nwangu, although he's probably going to be out this week. They signed Avery Williams to the practice squad. That's more of a returner signing. We'll talk about that. But and they have Andrew Beck, a fullback. So it's an interesting running back room now. And Breece is the bell cow. Whereas I would have told you there's no way he's going to be the bell cow before the season. He's played pretty well broadly. There was the 2 games sandwich where he was not as good, but this last week he was good. They're going against a not amazing run defense. So he's going to be the guy, and he's going to get a chance to earn himself some money going forward.
Yeah, it's good timing for him, I guess, as awful as that sounds. There were, I remember comments, I think they were on actually the last episode and during the episode, about people complaining about Breece not finishing his runs, which didn't stand out to me in the game necessarily, but I thought it was interesting. People calling that out. We'll see now when he's the guy. If he doesn't do that, stepping out of bounds to stay healthy isn't always a bad thing. But
yeah, I think that's been a thing. I think since he came back from his ACL, like, not necessarily avoiding contact, but not necessarily running all the way through. Like, in the way Braylon Allen was really good at never going down on the first try. I think if Breece can add that to his game a little bit more, he'll be a little bit more of a complete runner, like getting the tough yardage. That was something at Saleh, I think that was last year, where Saleh kind of, or was it the year before? I can't even keep track anymore. Saleh kind of criticized Breece for not going for the tough yards, which was kind of like became a thing, which probably was a mistake by Saleh at the time, but that happened a few times. But Breece, I think he's looked really good. I think he's looked closer to the pre-ACL version of himself broadly this year in terms of like his explosive. He still hasn't broken a big one yet. We're still waiting for like that. That's the level of Breece we haven't reached yet that they kind of need, is Breece taking a catch or a carry and scoring on a 60-yard run and blowing. Like that was like Breece at his best. Like those first 5 games of his rookie year, I feel like it's so far away now that I feel like we forget how freaking good he looked in those games. And not only that, but they weren't giving him the ball at the beginning of the year because they always just wait too long. That was LaFleur too. And then by that Broncos game, the game he hurt himself, he like had 2 long touchdowns in that game or whatever it was, and he just looked like phenomenal. And he hasn't quite gotten that back yet. So in order to get the full Breece, you want that. And maybe this is the week for that to happen.
You mentioned Kene and the kick return situation in general, which, right, who knows at this point. Avery Williams on the practice squad. Herbert has some experience returning
Yeah.
kicks. You have Isaiah Williams still on the roster. That didn't go so well.
No.
Wangu's still out. So, like, who do you anticipate fielding kicks this week?
That's
Not
a good
Isaiah
question.
Williams.
I mean, they haven't cut him, and that's his role. So, I mean, they still could. I guess they kind of been vague about what they were going to do about it. Chris Banjo yesterday was like, we're still figuring out what we want to do with Isaiah and at returner. I mean, I think Isaiah Davis will be their primary kick returner, I would guess, but he also has to play a bigger role in offense, and you just saw what happens when you do that with Braylon Allen. I think fans are mad that they put Braylon back there. I think they were trying to show a different look, but it obviously backfired. Avery Williams, just looking at his stats, in terms of punt returns, he was a pretty good punt returner for the Falcons. He averaged 16.2 yards per punt in 22, 9.3 last year. Okay, kick returner. It doesn't look like he had any touchdowns. Khalil Herbert returned a little with the Bears, a little in college. They have that guy Kylan Robinson, I think, on their practice squad still. Arian Smith, I wonder if he's somebody they give a shot, but they just need somebody who can do the fundamentals of returning right now. So I don't know if you want to put Smith back there, because this is now 2 games you could argue have, if not been lost because of it, just like they've heavily contributed to losing in 2 out of 4 games because the Jets, kind of, I mean, they have Jamal Pritchett too on the practice squad, I should say, but it felt like they just like rolled with the punches of who they had when these guys maybe weren't ready for being the main guys. And you sign Isaiah Williams off the Bengals practice squad. I don't know how he looked in practice. Maybe he looked good, and then he just got nervous in the game, but it was a disaster last week. I don't know. Kene Nwangu is the best one they have. He's like an all-pro level returner, but he just can't stay healthy. This is going to be the 4th game he's going to miss, I think. And in fact, there's a lot, every time that happens, people are like, why didn't you put him on IR? Well, the obvious answer is they didn't know he was going to miss 4 weeks at the time. And so,
Right.
That's been the most disappointing part. I think they probably went into the season assuming he would be their main kick returner, and they hoped Gibson would be fine, just like doing the basics of the job. But I don't know. I think it's getting close to time where you got to just go find a veteran that could. There's probably someone on some practice squad somewhere that has like legit experience that is not going to fumble it away or fair catch it from the 2-yard line. And there's nobody on this roster other than Wangu that I feel like great about as a returner. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. It's a problem because I think the special teams otherwise has been pretty good, but that's like a real issue. The fact that they cannot figure out a returner.
Yeah. And it's costing, like, sometimes you think of it as a throwaway, right? The kick returner. But like in this sense, you mentioned it, it's really costing them. All right. Next injury, Jermaine Johnson, day to day. Feels like unlikely to play this week, but they are hosting Drake Jackson. We already have some chatter in the comments on the podcast about whether or not you think they will actually sign Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, he's visiting with 3 different teams. It's on Schefter's Twitter. I don't have it in front of me, but it was the Jets and 2 others. So, I mean, they have to, the first thing to see how he looks health-wise. So I looked up his situation. So he had patellar tendon surgery last year, which cost him the entire season. The 49ers waived him this offseason, never signed with anybody. The report is that he's healthy now. He was a 2nd-round pick not too long ago, and that's the kind of guy that like it's smart to like just take a flyer on, especially at a position where like you can't really get worse than what the backups have on the Jets right now. Whatever we want to say about Clemens, he's ultimately fine as a backup. He's going to start until Jermaine's back. Jermaine won't be back this week, I would guess, because he hasn't practiced still, which is alarming that it's taken this long. The backups, Brady McGregor, Tyler Barron, we've said those names way more than we probably should have going into the season, I would say. And so Drake Jackson, he had 3 sacks as a rookie, 3 sacks in 8 games in 2023, only played around 30% of the snaps. So he's like a situational pass rusher guy, but get what you can get. You need talent at the defensive end position. These are the type of guys Darren Muji's been pretty good about, like, grabbing for good value on the trade market. And so take a flyer on him if you can get him, bring him to the practice squad, let him play his way into the roster. But you need something. You need an injection of some sort of talent in that defensive end room because it's just brutal there right now. And you're not going to get pressure on these quarterbacks if your defensive end group is Will McDonald, who I think has been pretty good as a pass rusher. He's been held a lot, but they play him like half the snaps still. He doesn't play more than Michael Clemens because they don't trust him on running downs, which they said they would before the season, and it hasn't happened. So this is a real gaggle of like not that great of players. And I wonder if at some point Muji adds a player via the trade market as well. They are running low on the day 3 draft picks because they've traded a lot of them away from these trades they've made. But yeah, so I don't think anyone should expect, even if they sign Drake Jackson, for him to have a huge impact, but it's more just like a flyer and see what you have there.
All right, one more injury, Michael Carter II, the concussion, but Jarvis Brownlee Jr., full practice on Wednesday, full practice Thursday. So is this our first glimpse? And I assume he'd be starting, right?
I would think. I mean, unless they feel like he's not captured the playbook yet, the other option would be Isaiah Oliver, who I don't think looked very good the other day, and he probably is better served as just a utility man backup. I am very curious to see Brownlee because I think he's got an intriguing skill set. He's a very aggressive player, which the Jets don't really have on this defense right now. He's someone who's not going to be afraid to tackle. They need somebody like that. He gets a lot of penalties, which, he fits right in here in that regard, I guess. But I'm highly intrigued by him. And if they can get a player that can prove to be an upgrade over what MC2 was showing, which was not much, it just seems like MC2 is just not the same player since he's dealt with all these injuries. And it's kind of unfortunate because he was really, really good. Great locker room guy. It's not over yet. I mean, if he gets healthy, maybe he'll figure it out. He has a concussion right now in protocol, so would assume he's out. He didn't practice this week. But this is a chance for Brownlee to come in and take the job and run with it. And then you have a guy under contract for 2 more years after this one on a rookie deal of a 6th round pick or 5th round pick, whatever he was. And so, yeah, I think he's going to get a chance to play, and it's going to be an important one because, Dak Prescott is a really good player and he's having a good year. And even without CeeDee Lamb, they've been lighting up the scoreboard. So you need the back end to play better. And if there's a vulnerability there, Dak Prescott is going to capitalize on it, whether it's Stevens or whoever's at nickel or at safety and all that stuff. So Brownlee's he's kind of an X factor this week, frankly.
Sauce Gardner stirred the pot after the game on Monday night, saying that, hey, the Jets don't get these calls that he sees that winning teams get, and it's because they're not winning. Other teams get calls because they are winning. Aaron Gled talked about it this week. He said you have to earn the right to get those calls. And then he referenced Sauce and said, Sauce said his piece, and I'm not going to question it, what he has to say about it. So you wrote a whole story about that. You did a deep dive, Zach. Deep dive on historic Jets penalties, which is a story that was just begging to be written. It was good. And it went back through time, and you kind of discovered that maybe there's something to this, right?
Yeah. And I think people actually read the story, understood like the point I was getting at, and I made sure to emphasize this in the story. I quoted people saying it. This is not why the Jets have been the Jets. Right. Like they haven't been bad because the league doesn't call a lot of things that they should or calls too many things that they shouldn't. But like there are numbers and there's moments that like kind of back up the theory to a degree. And I will say before I get into like some of the numbers, which are pretty bonkers, and I hope you guys read the story, but I was happy that somebody in the Discord for Badlands put the clip of Larry David. There's a scene from a Jet Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, the one where famously a Jets fan kills himself because he can't fathom any more Jets suffering. And then there's a scene with him and Jane Krakowski from 30 Rock where they're getting hot and heavy, and then he starts to complain. She's like, do you have anything on your mind? And he starts complaining about how her late husband owes him $500. And he's like, I feel like I got cheated out of $500. Like the Jets got cheated out of a touchdown. Austin Seferian-Jenkins had his touchdown overturned. Like it was such a perfect lead for my story as soon as I recalled that, because that was like at the time, you go back and read all the articles, like they lost their mind. They wound up losing that game and they wound up having a really bad season. So it was 2017 with Todd Bowles, but Larry David's episode was 3 years later. And so that was just like the picture of Jets fans that like hold a grudge on a penalty that maybe didn't ultimately matter anyway. Like maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't have, but I don't know. This just came to my mind. The Sauce's quote I thought was just like so fascinating because, and I talked to somebody from footballzebras.com. It's like, he's a guy who's evaluated and analyzed officiating for like years. And I like brought up Sauce's like the angle of good teams get a favorable whistle has always been like a theory, but I've never heard the opposite of it, which was Sauce saying we don't get a good whistle because we are a bad team. It's like, I've never heard it from like the flip side.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I dove into the numbers. I'll just say a few of them because I think they're pretty I mean, I think we probably talked about it that year. It was a while ago at this point, but at one point in 2023, they had gone like 26 or 27 straight weeks without having a roughing the passer penalty called in their favor, whereas they had 11 called against them in that stretch, which was from 21 to 23. And over the, let's see here. Hold on, let me pull up some of these stats because they're pretty crazy. So since Sauce's rookie year, the Jets have been called for 16 roughing the passer penalties and 33 unnecessary roughness, which are both the highest in the league. And they've only had 5 and 16 called against them. They have the most roughing the passer penalties and unnecessary roughness over the last 10 years. If you look at just broadly all penalties, since 2022, Sauce's rookie year, they've been penalized the second most times in the NFL. And the differential between how much teams have been called for penalties against them, like when they play the Jets, is 67 difference, which is like huge. And the 10-year stretch, the Jets have had both the second fewest penalties called against their opponents and the second most called against them. And they have a huge gap between those figures. So it's just like, obviously, and his name's Ben, the guy that works for Football Zebras. He's like, usually what you see is that the bad teams are less disciplined, so they're going to get called for more penalties. But like when the numbers are that staggering, like I don't actually think the officials are out to get the Jets, but maybe there's something to Sauce's theory that like because they just expect the Jets to do the wrong thing, they maybe are quicker to throw the flag. Whereas the flip side, there's been some glaring, and I'm sure people in the chat can think of some of them, and I have a bunch in the story, like glaring ones where a Jets quarterback was blatantly hit after the whistle. Or the one that really spurred this for me was from Sunday, Jeremy Ruckert, and I didn't see this immediately during the game, which is why we didn't talk about it, I don't believe, on our day after pod. But Jeremy Ruckert makes a catch, he's tackled, the play's clearly over, then another guy comes flying in and hits him again, and the officials right there, nothing was called. And that was just like mind blowing to me. Like it was such a
that one in the fields. The fields out of bounds.
The fields one
was a no-brainer, and
there was
too, because they had just called one the other way.
And there was a Joe Tippmann one where the defensive lineman rips his helmet off like by the face mask, which is an unnecessary roughness penalty. So, again, like they didn't lose that game because of the penalties, but it did not help certainly. So that's why that was kind of my point. Like I'm not, out of all people, I think anyone who follows me knows I'm not going to make excuses for the Jets. I'm going to call out when they're messing up. And it would even get frustrating when, I would get annoyed when Saleh, they were the most penalized team in the NFL. And he'd be like, well, there are also good teams that are the most penalized in the NFL. But the difference is you guys can't overcome it because you're not good. So, as Dan Botter just mentioned, Orlovsky and Riddick were calling it out, which it's usually frowned upon for the broadcasters to call out bad officiating because they're partners with the NFL, and the NFL does not like that usually. So that's how you know it was blatant. And so that was kind of the root of my story. And I think this is one of my stories one of my rare stories, I should say, that fans were kind of universally agreeing with. Not all of them, but it seems like a lot of them are like, yeah, the refs are out to get us. Thank you, Zach. So you're welcome.
The Jets are probably happy with your story too.
Yeah. I got to text
pat on the
somebody.
back next time you're in the building.
Thanks. Yeah, it's not often that
us some excuses.
It's not often that the Jets are happy with something I'm writing when they're 0-4.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. You can accept the bad calls. Now I know like this isn't going to impact anything, but you do wonder like the officials going in the rest of the season, like there has been this chatter, like if it gets worse, is it like, oh, now they're really going the other way because they don't want to seem like they're going the other way, or do the Jets get a couple calls and people are like, see, we complained and we got like, any basketball.
The question is, do I get credit? Is the question,
right? Do you get credit?
Yeah.
We'll see.
And
we'll monitor the situation.
I will say with Sauce specifically, he's become known for being aggressive in the way he plays defense, and so because that's his reputation, I do wonder if there's something to be said about officials looking for him to be doing that stuff, and so they throw the flag quicker. I do think there's times where it's very clear he committed it, and there's times where it's kind of BS. And he's been called for 2, I believe, this season. The Garrett one was also like iffy, but like not like 100% wrong. Like the one where he was called for OPI on the touchdown. Like it was like ticky tack. They do call that sometimes.
By the book,
they don't call it all the time.
Probably was, but
like like they're not going to call that on like Justin Jefferson. Like that's the reality. So or any Patrick Mahomes receiver, but that's as Aaron Glenn I think did a good job of kind of counteracting what Sauce says. Like we have to earn the right to get those calls. Like that's the right way to, instead of like being woe is me, Aaron Glenn's like, I hear you, but like we need to get to that point where we're one of those teams where we're a winning team, so they don't just expect us to be doing the wrong thing. And so I think that's absolutely the right way to go about it.
Cowboys are coming to town. It's a team that, man, the offense has looked good. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb being out. It just hasn't mattered. Dak has been great. This offense has scored 24 points in a loss to the Eagles to open the season, then 40 points to just get by the Giants, then 31 points, and then 40 points in a tie. Just showing like how bad the defense is that they scored 40 points twice. One of those games they won by a field goal in overtime, and the other one they tied.
I mean, look at that. I just pulled this up right now. They are number 1 in offensive yardage and number 32 in defensive yardage. Like that's pretty hard to do. I think the Jets have had the opposite before, where they were maybe number 1 in defensive yardage and number 32 in offensive. And then scoring wise, they allow, let's see, 33 points a game, which is absolutely, and the Ravens are even worse than that, which is, we're going to be talking about the Ravens in a few weeks. And then on offense, they score 28 and a half points a game, and it's not enough. Like that's like, imagine a year where the Jets could score that many points a game. If they did that under Saleh, they would have like finished with 12 wins a year. So it's pretty bonkers, the disparity. I didn't think the defense would fall off that badly. I mean, losing Parsons clearly isn't the only problem they had, but their defense is bad. But their offense that's my biggest concern as we go into this week, because the Cowboys have shown they're going to be in shootouts because they can put up yards and score with the best of them, and their defense cannot hold up. So they're having these high scoring games, a 40-40 tie against a good Packers defense, at least on paper. Like, can the Jets keep up with the team that's going to score 30 plus points? Can their defense step up in the right moments and force a turnover? They are the only team in the NFL without a turnover force still. Like, I've never seen anything like it. It's terrible. Like, they have to get a turnover this game or they're going to lose. So my concern is whether the defense can do anything against that offense. But I do feel like, and we'll get into like matchups and stuff, but I do feel like this offense can get going in this game and Justin Fields can have a good game. And so I'm curious to see. I will say an X factor is that the Cowboys defensive line coach is Aaron Whitecotton, who obviously was with the Jets for a while, and he knows all about the Jets O-line, their weaknesses, what this team's going to do. So I'm curious to see how much of a factor Whitecotton's knowledge is going to be.
And the head coach is Brian Schottenheimer now, has spent a lot of time in New York, obviously a little further back, but little former Jets situation. All right, let's get into some matchups. And because of the way this game is going to probably go, we're kind of focusing in on the wide receiver cornerback matchups. Let's start on offense. You have Garrett, who we've said it, despite the very little things this team is doing offensively, like he's still been good. He's still put up some numbers. But Trayvon Diggs this week will be really a good matchup.
Thought I had a sneeze. So, one of those. It feels like it's coming, and then it goes away. That's the worst feeling. I mean, Garrett's been pretty remarkable, honestly, considering he's gotten no help. I think he's like number 1 or number 2 in the NFL in terms of like target share and all that stuff. I mean, he has 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 27 catches. I think he's on pace to set the Jets record for receptions. Let's see if you do the yardage. He's on pace for over 1,300 receiving yards. He's doing all of that with the quarterback situation being what it has been. Fields in and out of the lineup, terrible week 2. He's doing it without any support at wide receiver. Inconsistent support elsewhere. And he's still having the season he had. I mean, that touchdown he had at the end of the game kind of, helped him salvage like the stats wise. But I mean, he's the root of their offense. The Cowboys are going to do what they can to stop him. And as we say every week, they need somebody else to emerge to make his life a little bit easier. But, and I should say, Garrett had some great quotes yesterday. I wasn't there because I was fasting for Yom Kippur and had a disaster at the DMV. But he had a great quote about like asking why he wanted to stay a Jet long term. And he just talked about how he loves it here and he wants to be a part of the change and all that stuff. And I think whenever he says stuff like that, you're reminded why he's such a good ambassador to this organization, and they should be thankful they have him. He's a competitor. He wants to win. He had a moment with Aaron Glenn on the sideline in that game where they were kind of not getting into it, but Aaron Glenn had his arm around him and Garrett was like still like mad about something that happened in the game. Like it was that's Garrett. Like he's emotionally wears his heart in his sleeve. And anyway, as for this matchup, like the Jets need him to play as he's played all year, and they need somebody else to emerge. And then if he doesn't play how he's played all year, then their offense is in trouble. So it's a lot of pressure on him. He's been handling it well so far.
Every time he comes out with one of those quotes too, it's like almost surprising because you're waiting for one of these guys to be like, I'm sick of this. I want out of here.
Yeah.
And he just continues to say that he wants to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Other side of the ball, the other guy that we talk about with the new contract is Sauce. And he's going to go up against George Pickens last week in the tie.
Unreal. Yeah.
Packers. 8 catches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. Has really stepped in and picked up the slack with CD out.
Yeah, he has. He looked really, really good. I mean, he's always been someone. It was like week to week. You never knew what you're going to get with him. You might have a moment with Pickens where he's lollygagging and he's not blocking a defender on a run, or he's getting pulled out of the game. But I mean, Tomlin and him had a lot of back and forth. But when he's at his best, like, he can make as acrobatic and athletic of catches as anybody in the NFL. He's fast. He's big. He's strong. He's a challenging matchup for anybody. So, and if he's as good as he looks like a wide receiver one, even when they don't have CD and they haven't really missed a beat. So, with the way Sauce hasn't been his best, I think he's still probably been better than the perception. I would say, like, there's numbers to back that up in terms of like yards per target and or snaps per target and snaps per reception and things like that. But I assume he's going to follow Pickens because the other receivers don't really scare you. So this is a huge matchup. This is where you need Sauce to show what he's made of, to show that he's worth that money that they gave him. And, they need him to shut down Pickens if the Jets want to have a shot. And getting an interception would be a nice, icing on the cake, because the biggest knock against Sauce has and always will be, until he changes it, that he does not force turnovers and he doesn't get his hand on enough balls. So this is a good week to change that. And he knows that the Jets defense knows that they need to pick off Dak Prescott at some point, because he's going to air it out. You're going to have opportunities to do that. Will you capitalize on them? You're on mute.
Sorry, siren going by. Will they get to Dak too is another thing here.
Yeah. I mean,
his line is held up for him.
I think they had either 0 or 1 sack last week, and they have 6 sacks for the season. Yeah, they had 0 last week. They have 6 for the season, and 4 came in week 1. So they need the pressure to be a lot better. Their own line has historically been pretty good. But yeah, you need to get pressure on them, and you need to force a turnover. Like, we're going to say it is over and over and over again, but that's your only shot you have in this game.
We'll see how it goes. And with that, let's get into the picks for this week. We got
I did terrible last week.
We have separation at the top here in the picks. Chauncey, 58 total points. That's a 6-point lead, which is basically he's 3 games ahead of Jimbo Brennan and CSM or C McGrath. There's the sneeze. You feel that? So yeah, separation there. Let's get into this week's games.
I mean, I started off poorly because I picked the Rams last night. So
there you go. Yeah, they're 5.5. I guess. I think everybody's like, it's Mac Jones, everyone. It's Mac Jones, and somehow he keeps just doing just enough for them to get wins.
Seriously, he's been good.
All right. This was a really tough week for me as far as picks. Like, I mean, not that I do well even when I think I am going to, but this week I go into it like not feeling great about any of these. Like Baltimore, for instance, like 3.5-point favorites at home against Houston, who's a bad team, but like no Lamar. What does that mean? Right. There's just all these question marks. I just figured the defense would do enough that they cover there. Colts 6.5 favorite. Like the Colts keep winning, but like by miracles. So can they cover 6.5? Yeah, right. Then they cover 6.5. Like I know there's a lot of these games. I took Dallas. Let's start with the Jets game. Jets are plus 2.5. I'm going Dallas.
Yeah, I am too.
That is otherwise.
Yeah, I'm back in that stage. I'll believe they can do it when they do. That line is a little low. If it was higher, I might have gone Jets, but 2.5 is pretty low. So, if I'm predicting, I predict the Cowboys probably win by a touchdown or more. But, this is a big week for Aaron Glenn to kind of show what he's made of and the things he's been preaching, because going to London against a good Broncos team, 0-5, would not be ideal. I mean, obviously, like I'm not breaking any news there. Like they need to win a game. So like they don't want to be coming back to America 0-6. And it feels like we're headed that way, but we'll see.
Speaking of the Broncos, they've looked very good, and they go to Philadelphia this week. I took the Eagles in that one, but that's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I didn't pick for that game. But a couple of ones I liked that I picked. I went Chargers -2.5. Washington's very banged up. I did Patriots +7.5 because I think
you
they've
took the
looked really,
Patriots.
yeah, because they've looked really. I know the Bills
They
are
have.
probably the Super Bowl favorite right now, but the Patriots have looked a lot better, and I think they're going to be ready to go. I mean 7.5. I don't know if I think the Patriots are going to win, but I think they can cover. And let's see, is there any other one of these that I really liked? I said Saints -1 because the Giants lost neighbors, and I don't think Dart was as good as everybody's acting, but we'll see. And I didn't pick it, but I could totally see the Browns +3.5 because the Vikings are kind of a mess right now. They have like 3 offensive linemen out. Carson Wentz is their quarterback.
Dylan Gabriel starting for the Browns.
Oh, that's true. That's why I think I didn't pick that game because I'm a little skeptical about him.
And that's just a mess now because I feel like Flacco's starting was covering the simmering mess between
Shador,
Gabriel and Shador, and then the stuff of Shador having a silent press conference this week. It just seems like it's always the case, right? Things are always bad in Cleveland.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the whole miming thing was just, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, there are people who are like, well, you shouldn't talk to the third string quarterback. Who cares? He doesn't have to say anything. What he didn't say anything, but
he didn't say anything.
He became the story because he couldn't just be like, I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to take away from Dylan Gabriel's moment, or I'm going to support him any way I can. Say any of those things, but he has to be the center of attention. So whatever. I think it's
why, really, to be honest, which is one reason that he slipped in the draft. I think.
But also the whole thing with him telling the Ravens he didn't want to be a backup because he thought he had a better chance to start in Cleveland. He'd be starting for the Ravens right now because Lamar's injured. So something to be said about that.
All right. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Don't think so. We're going to do our pod on Monday. Then I head to London, and we'll probably do a preview pod while I'm in across the pond. So I'm looking forward to that. I know we have a lot of people from Badlands going to London, so give me a shout if you're in town. I'll be there all week. It's going to be the longest time I've been away for a non-honeymoon trip in a long time. So looking forward to it.
Enjoy London. I was there for 8 days thanks to Heathrow shutting down this spring.
Oh, I forgot about that. Right.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm in Chicago next week, so we're gonna have a complete road trip podcast leading into that game.
There we go.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. The baggage handlers, that's what we're going with, by the way. Michael Dunn asked, what we had decided on. So thanks for all the baggage handlers for hanging out in the chat here on YouTube. And we will talk to everybody next week, hopefully with the Jets win to talk about.